Hey, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we'll be talking about the alternative paths to wealth that they never taught you. So buckle up, this is going to be a very informative video. If you ever felt like the traditional path to wealth is too slow, too restrictive, or just doesn't give you the freedom that you're aiming for, you're not wrong. Most people have been guided into a single strategy. A strategy that has you working 30 to 40 years, saving diligently in a 401k, then retiring at age 65, and then beginning to live. But what if you had other paths to building wealth? Paths that allow you to create income now, not decades later? This information is in Chapter 8 of Breaking Free from the 401k Trap in my book. However, we'll be going through it together today in great detail. The alternative paths to wealth that we'll be discussing today are strategies that the wealthy use. They're also strategies that create cash flow, not just paper net worth. And these strategies give you options, which I would argue is amongst the greatest forms of financial power. So you may be thinking, why do alternative paths matter? Most were taught to follow just one financial script, one that was handed down to them by employers, by schools, family, traditional financial advisors. However, the script is built on deferred reward, delayed access to your money, dependence on markets and institutions that you do not control. But here's the truth. However, the most powerful wealth to you in your life is wealth that you could access, use, and direct right now. And the wealthy, they understand this. They don't wait 30 years for financial freedom. They build it along the way. Instead of relying on retirement accounts, they create income streams, ownership stakes, and cash flow producing assets. And the good news is, you could do the same. So now we're going to discuss several different paths that you could follow to produce your own path to wealth. The first one we're going to start with is business ownership. Business ownership is one of the most proven and powerful routes to wealth. Currently within the United States, there are 33 million small businesses. Of these small businesses, they employ 50% of the nation's workforce. But here's the key point. Business owners don't just earn money. They create systems, products, or services that continue generating income even when they're not actively working every hour. An example of which is someone named Sarah Blakely, who started a small company that grew up into a massive company that many of you, male and female, use, and it supports you, which is Spanx. Sarah started this company with $5,000 and grew it to $1 billion company, not by having the most money, but identifying a simple problem that many people have and coming up with an elegant solution for solving that problem, which happened to be shapewear, and providing shapewear better than anyone else on the market within her space. So your path into business ownership, it could be starting something new, could be partnering with someone, could be buying existing business, could be turning your skills or knowledge into a service or a product. And nowadays we have digital products. So practical steps: identify a problem people consistently face, validate that people will pay you to solve this problem, start small, continue to refine your solution to that problem, and build systems to reduce your required involvement in the daily operations. You don't want to create another job for yourself. You want to create a business, something that can eventually be self-sustaining and continue to grow without your direct involvement. However, with all things, there are risks. So one risk that you have to manage is 50% of businesses fail by year 5, mostly due to cash management and also due to a lack of systems. So start in a method that's very controlled, measured. However, the big thing is start. You have to start somewhere. As the Bible says, despise not the day of small beginnings. So you have to begin somewhere. You have to start. The next path I'm going to discuss is real estate. Real estate remains one of the most reliable and repeatable paths to wealth. And there are 2 primary strategies. And of course, there's several more, and people have developed and come up with different variations, but the 2 primary, I'd argue, are fix and flip and buy and hold. The fix and flip side, you buy a property, you improve it, you sell it, Some of the risks here with that particular approach is market timing. And the big reward is, hey, you get a one-time large lump sum amount of funds that come in. The other strategy is the buy and hold, which you buy. Sometimes you need to make minor improvements, sometimes you don't. Then you rent, and then you get recurring cash flow. The risk here is, the very clear common one is the tenant, right? Finding a good tenant, finding one that's going to pay and not destroy or damage your property. However, the big reward is you get ongoing monthly income. And the wealthy, they prefer the buy and hold strategy, being that it provides reoccurring, regular income. Example of which, we'll say a guy named John, who's a teacher, 15 years ago decided to invest in 3 duplexes, was barely making any cash flow on them, but was making cash flow nonetheless. And now 15 years later, he's cash flowing $5,000 a month on those duplexes, creating an income of $60,000 a year, replacing his income and allowing him to now do whatever he chooses with his time. That's the beauty of real estate. You have the reoccurring cash flow, and if you have some type of loan on that real estate, then hey, it's something that eventually gets paid down, your cash flow grows, and you may end up owning it outright, or also, in addition to owning it outright, have an appreciating asset that's continually paying you. So with that, I'll share some key principles for real estate purchasing success. Buy at the right price, right? You don't want to overpay. Run conservative estimates for the cash flow projections or overall fix and flip profits you expect to gain. And then always keep a reserve fund in place to take care of, clean up additional fixes that you didn't intend to have to make, or to remove that unruly tenant and clean up after them and get a new tenant in, right? So there's many different scenarios, but definitely keep a reserve fund. And one of the big mistakes to avoid is buying a property that doesn't cash flow and just assuming that, hey, it's a good investment anyway, it's a property, it's going to appreciate. As 2007 to 2009 period of time taught us, properties do not always appreciate. And remember, cash flow within this area is what creates your freedom. So the next item I'd like to move on to is dividend stocks. And this is an important area because not everyone wants to manage a business or rental properties. So this is really a good fit for where dividend stocks can come into play. Beauty of dividend stocks is they're backed by companies that are represented by those stocks, and those companies have the stocks that you have now purchased that aren't only just appreciating, but they're also paying you on a regular recurring basis through sharing profits that the company is acquiring, whether it's quarterly, annually, semi-annually. It's coming in on a consistent basis, a regular recurring period of time. So if you don't know where to go to look for companies that provide dividends, you can look up the S&P Dividend Aristocrats. These are companies that have paid dividends for the past 25 years consecutively, through recessions, through inflation, through market corrections, through market cycles. These are companies that have consistently shared their profits with their shareholders. So that makes arguably dividend investing stable, predictable, and a long-term wealth building apparatus to support your portfolio. An example of this is, say you're someone who has $250,000 that you invested 20 years ago, and as a result of market fluctuation, that $250,000 is now $1 million. However, it's also kicking off a dividend for you, so you're getting yearly somewhere between $25,000 to $40,000 a year because of the approximate 2.5% to 4% dividend that's coming off of it. So you're not only having funds that are accumulating and growing as a result of market fluctuations, but then you also have regular recurring income in the form of the dividend that's coming off of those funds. So this is really a quiet, steady, simple way of building wealth. An additional alternative path is creative and digital assets. So we're living in what people would argue is a creator economy. And this happens to be one of the fastest growing wealth creating categories in the world. So this includes things like course platforms, YouTube channels, online communities, digital downloads, licensing, creative works, and anything else you can imagine that falls within the digital space. The creator economy right now within the US is projected to grow to over $500 billion in 2027. An example of this is Michelle Schroeder Gardner. She created a personal finance blog, started from scratch, was sharing some of her thoughts and information that she was able to gather, and it has now grown to exceed over $100,000 per month in reoccurring income that comes from her producing content that people trust. Why does this matter to you? You already have experience in some field, some activity, something that you like doing, that someone else wishes that they had your level of expertise in it. So why not package that information, share with others, to also create wealth for yourself within this creator economy? So we discussed several different paths today, and one common linkage between all the paths is they produce income while you live, not just after you retire. So that's really the difference between having money on paper as opposed to cash flow that gives you freedom in real life. Remember, our goal is to collect cash flow, not paper statements. So what actions can you take now? What could you do? Choose one wealth path that aligns with your skills, time availability, personality, and risk tolerance. And take one small step this week, whether it be schedule a call with a business broker, attend a local meetup for real estate, open a dividend investment account with, say, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, or one of the other major brokerage firms, or develop an outline for a digital product or book. So remember, small, consistent action creates momentum. Then momentum builds systems. Then systems build freedom. And also, cash flow is freedom. Freedom is control. Control is peace. So if this content spoke to you, please like it. Please share it with someone else that you believe will add value to. And subscribe to the channel. Look forward to spending more time with you in the future. And if you would like this information, find it in my book, Breaking Free from the 401k Trap. Or you can continue watching these videos and we'll get through the entire book together. God bless.